All right, Shalom. I want to start off by giving all praise, honor, and glory due to Yahweh, by Shem Yahushai, by Shemar Kakwadash. And I'd like to give double honors unto the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone, who I learned this truth from. And I'd like to say peace and salutations unto the hopefully elect. And today, I just want to go into a lesson about, witchcraft and, the penalty for it, because I came across the clip where pretty much a woman was talking about how she do voodoo, you know. So I'm just going to play the clips, I think I'm bring out a few scriptures, Lord willing. This lesson is edifying and straight to the point.
Walking down the street, people do not think I do voodoo. They think I'm just some girl. You don't dress this way. You don't look this way. Part of the magic is the trick, hiding it in plain sight. I'm in disguise, bitch. Like you're not supposed to know I just came back from Haiti. You're not supposed to know I just was in Africa and shaved my head completely bald. I relate to that in that sense of like how our ancestors hid it, poisoning slave masters and doing all kinds of witchery and trying to hide it under Christianity.
We can be deeply connected to this spirituality without it looking a certain way. You gotta be barefoot and be wearing a head wrap to have these powers. No, actually, it's innate.
So as you can see, this woman is pretty much talking about how, she does voodoo. So in other words, she's a witch, but as she said, she pretty much hides her witchcraft in plain sight, which in reality, she just told you, what she does, that she went to Africa, that she went to Haiti and did these particular rituals, so I'm going to go to her Instagram page, show you this. And as you can see in her profile, it says High Priestess of African Vodun, which I'm pretty sure is just another word for voodoo. And as you can see, the picture is right here. She talked about you're not supposed to know that she went to Africa and shaved her head bald. Well, here it is. You see it. Shaved her head, her back is cut or doing whatever. Like, man, this this particular practice right here, doing witchcraft, this is the reason why, the Hamites were cast out of the land of Canaan, or the Canaanites were cast out of the land of Canaan, because they were doing, these abominable acts, homosexual, acts, sacrificing their children. Ultimately, they're doing witchcraft as well. This is why the Lord, had us pretty much exile them from the land of Israel, which was formerly known as the land of Canaan, and also because that land was ours. But, the point I wanted to make is that, this is one reason why, the Lord punished us, because we went after other gods, doing things such as witchcraft, And I want to show this other picture as well. You see her in Egypt as well, And then she has the blonde hair too, bugged out. Then look at her, as you can see, with that hat on, man. So we all know this is what, modern black women do. Most modern black women are witches, which is why the apostles pretty much tell us, to pretty much just leave the black women alone. Now, again, you do have sisters, that are, trying to, pretty much get themselves together, or sisters that are in the truth, that are, obedient to their husbands if they have them, but pretty much, you have a small number of women that are in this truth, that are trying to be set apart from the women of this world, because again, this is what the women of the world are doing, most women, primarily black women. Well, I ain't gonna say most women because I don't really know the statistic, or the specific percentage of women that do it. But again, this is what a lot of women are turning to in this particular time that we're in. They're turning to witchcraft, So I'm not gonna ramble, too long about it. Just wanted to show that. But the first scripture I'm gonna go to is the book of Exodus, chapter 22 and verse 18, and it's straight to the point. It says, thou shalt not suffer a witch to live. So yes, the penalty for someone being caught doing witchcraft was death, because again, we aren't supposed to, deal with familiar spirits who are, because, women that do witchcraft, they're witches. Men that do witchcraft, they're warlocks or sorcerers, And again, the penalty for doing these particular acts is death, So I'm going to go to the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 18. And I'm going to start in verse 9. And you can see the headline reads, Spiritism Forbidden. So these particular practices are forbidden. It's against what the Lord wants us to do. So this is Deuteronomy chapter 18 and verse 9. And it says, when thou art come into the land which the Lord thy power giveth thee, thou shalt not learn to do after the abominations of those nations. So yes, we are supposed to do these particular practices that the other nations do because they're heathens. They don't have a God to worship. But the nation of Israel, we have the true God, Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, and he gave us the law, statutes, and commandments on how we should live. But, us being a rebellious nation, we still went against the Heavenly Father and did these practices. Verse 10 says, there shall not be found among you any one that maketh his son or his daughter to pass through the fire, or that useth divination, or an observer of times, or an enchanter, or a witch, or a charmer, or a consulter with familiar spirits, or a wizard, or a necromancer. So yes, these are the things they weren't supposed to do. Because again, these are the things that the Canaanites were doing, in the land of Israel before we took it. They were doing these things, as you see first, we're supposed to sacrifice our children, pretty much sacrifice, your children to Molech, burning them alive, because that's what they were doing. They would heat up, that calf statue and pretty much, put their children on the altar, and the babies would cry, and then they would beat drums to drown out the crying, Those Hamites were doing some bugged out things in the land, And again, this is why the Lord is telling us not to do these things, because it's off, Verse 12, it says, for all that do these things are an abomination unto the Lord. And because of those abominations, the Lord thy power doth drive them out from before thee. So yes, the Lord had us drive out the Canaanites from the land of Israel, because ultimately it was going to go to us anyway, But again, these are things that we should not be doing, practicing witchcraft. So I'm going to jump to the book of Leviticus, chapter 20, and verse 27. And it says, a man also, or a woman that hath a familiar spirit, or that is a wizard, shall surely be put to death. They shall stone them with stones, their blood shall be upon them. And yes, again, that's the penalty, for someone being caught doing these things. They would be stoned to death, And then just like, the Salem witch trials, which I would have to do a little research on, but I know for sure, women that would be caught, doing witchcraft or accused of it, they would burn them. And pretty much, again, that's also, a way of putting a witch to death, to burn her with fire, And then, you have Israelites that do these things as well. And then just real quick, just to give a little bit of background, because, you have our people in which she is an Israelite. She looks like a Judite woman. If not, she could be, a so-called Benjamite or a Levite. But either way, these are the things that the nation of Israel was doing. So I'm going to go to the book of Genesis, chapter 49 and verse 5, and it says, Simeon and Levi are brethren. Instruments of cruelty are in their habitations. And yes, as you can see, she says she went to Haiti, to do these things, right? Excuse me. And then I'm bringing this out just to pretty much back up what she said. It says, Simeon and Levi are brethren. Instruments of cruelty are in their habitation. And that's talking about witchcraft, because the Simeonites, so-called Dominicans, and the Levites, the so-called Haitians, they're very heavily involved in witchcraft. These are the things that they do, in Haiti and the Dominican Republic. They practice these particular witchcrafts, As you can see, she says she went to Haiti to do it, And you have our people doing these things, but they err, not knowing, the consequences of these particular acts. So I'm going to jump to the book of Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 1. It's like Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 12. And I'm going to start at verse 1, and it says, For thine incorruptible spirit is in all things. Therefore chastenest thou them by little and little that offend, and warnest them by putting them in remembrance wherein they have offended, that leaving their wickedness they may believe on thee, O Lord. For it was thy will to destroy by the hands of our fathers both those old inhabitants of thy holy land, whom thou hatest for doing most odious works of witchcrafts and wicked sacrifices, and also those merciless murderers of children and devourers of man's flesh, and the feast of blood, with their priests out of the midst of their idolatrous crew, and the parents that killed with their own hands, souls destitute of help, that the land which thou esteemedest above all might receive a worthy colony of God's children. So yes, the land of Canaan, which it was formerly known as, the land of Israel, it was for us. But again, Canaan was Slakia, I'm a little excited. But the Canaanites were dwelling there, and the Lord had us drive them out because these are the things that they were doing, It says the Lord hated, these things that they were doing, witchcraft, wicked sacrifices, because again, they were doing, child sacrifice, that's just one of the many things that they were doing, in the land. And then I'm not going to go too much longer. I'm going to end it. On this. It's the book of 1 Samuel, chapter 28. And I'm going to start at verse 6. And this is pretty much, going into the account of King Saul, after Samuel died, and how he pretty much consulted a witch, because the Spirit of the Lord left him. So this is the book of 1 Samuel, chapter 28 and verse 6, and it says, And when Saul inquired of the Lord answered him not, neither by dreams, nor by Urim, nor by prophets. It says, Then said Saul unto his servants, Seek me a woman that hath a familiar spirit, that I may go to her and inquire of her. And his servant said unto him, Behold, there is a woman that hath a familiar spirit at Endor. And Saul disguised himself and put on other raiment, and he went, and 2 men with him, and they came to the woman by night. And he said, I pray thee, divine unto me by the familiar spirit, and bring me him up. whom I shall name unto thee. And the woman said unto him, Behold, thou knowest what Saul hath done, how he hath cut off those that hath familiar spirits, and the wizards out of the land. Wherefore then layest thou a snare for my life to cause me to die? So yes, before, King Saul lost the spirit of the Lord, that's one thing he was doing. He were putting, these witches and these wizards to death, because again, we know, it's a part of our law as it states that, we are supposed to practice witchcraft and you're supposed to suffer not a wish to live, you know. So continuing on, verse 10 says, And Saul sware to her by the Lord, saying, As the Lord liveth, there shall no punishment happen to thee for this thing. Then said the woman, Whom shall I bring up unto thee? And he said, Bring me up Samuel. So Samuel, he was in the spirit world, and he pretty much wanted to talk to Samuel, Verse 12, And when the woman saw Samuel, she cried with a loud voice, and the woman spake to Saul, saying, Why hast thou deceived me? For thou art Saul. So she pretty much figured it out, that it was him in disguise. Verse 13, And the king said unto her, Be not afraid, for what sawest thou? And the woman said unto Saul, I saw gods ascending out of the earth. And he said unto her, What form is he of? And she said, An old man cometh up, and he is covered with a mantle. And Saul perceived that it was Samuel, and he stooped with his face to the ground and bowed himself. And Samuel said to Saul, Why hast thou disquieted me to bring me up? So pretty much, Samuel's asking him, pretty much, why are you disturbing me? Because he's in the spirit world, resting, And Saul answered, I am sore distressed, for the Philistines make war against me, and Yahweh is departed from me, and answereth me no more, neither by prophets nor by dreams. Therefore I have called thee, that thou mayest make known to me what shall I do. Then said Samuel, Wherefore then dost thou ask me, seeing the Lord is departed from thee, and is become thine enemy, and the Lord hath done to him as he spake by me? For the Lord hath rent the kingdom out of thine hand, and given it to thy neighbor, even to David. So yes, the house of Saul, waxed weaker, and pretty much the kingdom went into, David. The kingdom was given unto King David, Verse 18, Because thou obeyedest not the voice of the Lord, nor executed his fierce wrath upon Amalek, therefore hath the Lord done this thing unto thee this day. So yes, Slakia. So pretty much, the Lord was angry with Saul because he didn't exterminate the Amalekites that were in the land, He let them live. And pretty much this is why Saul went to the witch to inquire what he should do, against the Philistines. But Samuel pretty much told him that he was going to die and the kingdom was going to go to David, And then to back it up, I'm going to go to the book of 1 Chronicles chapter 10 and verse 13. And it says, So Saul died for his transgression which he committed against the Lord, even against the word of the Lord, which he kept not, and also for asking counsel of one that had a familiar spirit to inquire it, and inquire not of the Lord. Therefore he slew him and turned the kingdom unto David, the son of Jesse. So, the point I wanted to make by bringing out this account is that, these are the things that happen when Those are our people. They either practice, you know, witchcraft, or, they inquire of, women, primarily women, or men that do witchcraft, that there's a serious penalty behind it, that penalty being death, you know. And pretty much we're in that time, where the Lord is going to start pouring out very serious judgment. And he's been doing that. So those that are out there doing these abominable acts, which they are, the Lord has a judgment waiting for you. So, Lord willing, this lesson was edifying. I want to give all praise, honor, and glory due to Yahweh, by Hashem Yahushai, by Hashem Rakakwadash. I'd like to give double honors unto the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone, who I learned this truth from, and I'd like to say peace and salutations unto the hopefully elect. Till the next time I say Shalom.